When you go to this menu and you select a Brutal plus 1 all the way to Brutal plus 6 difficulty, have you ever wondered how Starcraft actually selects a mutation for you to play? What mutators you'll be up against and how many? Well, wonder no more. In this video, I'll take you behind the scenes and I'm gonna show you how Starcraft actually selects what mutator you're gonna be playing up against and what mutator set you'll be complaining about on the Battle.net forums when you click this ray button with a brutal difficulty +1 all the way to +6 set. The first thing to understand about brutal plus difficulty is the idea of a mutation template. A mutation template is a table with mutator costs on the left and the number of each mutator on the right. When you want to play a game on brutal plus difficulty, the first thing Starcraft has to do is figure out which mutation template to give you. But before it does that, it calculates a few things. The first is the number of possible mutations at that particular difficulty level. Now, to do this, it uses a function called traverse, and that is the name of the function. And I'd like you to keep that function name in mind because it comes up a little bit later. So this traverse function, what it does is it generates a list of all possible valid mutation templates for the difficulty level that has been selected. Given each template, it now has to calculate the number of mutations that are possible with that given template. Now, to do this, it first needs to know how many mutators there exist with a certain cost. In the game, the engine actually manually tallies this every single time you select a Brutal Plus difficulty game. I've shown an example of what this table looks like, and this table may change as mutators get rebalanced, or new mutators get added or removed. And this table isn't stored in the game at all, it's actually calculated every single time you select a Brutal Plus difficulty. Now, given a list of valid mutation templates, we need to calculate the total number of mutations possible. This is a classic problem in math. Given n items, how many unique combinations can you select r of them? And I don't really want to go too much into the math because it's not really very relevant, so I'll just give you the formula over here. The exclamation mark here is called a factorial, and it basically says to keep multiplying the number by the next lower integer until you reach 1. For example, 4 factorial is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and 6 factorial is 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Given this formula, the game can now calculate how many possibilities exist for a given set of mutators with a cost. How do we calculate it for the whole template? We just multiply these numbers together. Now, you might be asking, why is this important? And the reason is because Blizzard balances how often you see mutations with a given mutator count. For example, Blizzard wants 2 and 3 mutator mutations to appear 48% of the time, while 4 mutator challenges should only be appearing about 4% of the time. By having these counts available, we can now assign a weighting to them so that when we randomly select a mutation, we get the target mutator counts as they have designed. So now that we have the counts and the weightings, all that is left to do is to generate a mutation template for us to play. And for that, we run the traverse function all over again. That same long function that generates all the possible combinations, we run that again for a second time every single time we want to play a Brutal Plus mutation, because unfortunately, the engine has no way of storing these templates. These templates are very complex structures, and the editor and the engine itself, unfortunately, does not have a way of storing all the valid combinations. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this traverse function slow? Isn't it going to slow down the game, especially if I'm running it twice? And the answer is not really. It's actually really fast. And it can be a bit misleading because of how I've animated it in this video, but in practice, it is a lot faster. Here's what the animation looks like without any of the manual delays and without the extra highlighting. And even this code, it's not running as fast as it could be because it's still inefficient. It still has to keep updating the display every single time it checks a template so you can see what it's checking. So the short answer is no, it doesn't really affect the game loading time to any noticeable extent. So now we run the traverse function and it randomly picks a template given a certain probability weighting. With this template, the game can now add mutators randomly depending on their cost. It knows what template it has to apply, so it knows which mutators to randomly assign to that template. and allows you to play up against the propagators, against the void rifts, polarity, and all your other favorite mutators.